Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
California is dealing with its second mass shooting in recent days. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and we're going to have several reports on recent gun violence in this newscast, including new data that details the local situation. We're also hearing more about the victims in Monterey Park. First, Mike Valerio has an update on last night's killings near the Bay Area.
And this is unbelievable. This is terrible.
Less than 2 days after a gunman opened fire on a dance studio in Monterey Park, killing at least 11 people, another California community rocked by gun violence.
We have never experienced anything like this.
A gunman killing at least 7 people at a mushroom farm and near a trucking facility in Half Moon Bay Monday. The sheriff says children were present at the scene.
Our hearts are torn out of our chests for all these individuals and families.
The arrest of 66-year-old Chun-Li Zhao playing out before TV cameras. Authorities say Zhao had legal possession of a semi-automatic weapon in a state with some of the strongest gun laws in the country.
All of the evidence we have points to this being the instance of workplace violence. The mounted mushroom farm, the first location, is where the subject was employed.
The U.S. has now had more mass shootings in 2023 than at this point in any year on record, according to the Gun Violence Archive. President Joe Biden reacting to the latest mass shooting, calling on Congress to act quickly and ban assault weapons. As authorities work to determine the motives behind these mass shootings, communities are honoring the lives stolen and trying to make sense of senseless acts. Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
San Diego County today released its first annual report on gun violence, and it shows a drop in homicides and the number of ghost guns seized by officers. Alexander Nguyen reports on why the county believes these numbers back up their gun policies.
It's really part of kind of a broader data-driven policymaking effort at this county.
That's what today's report is about, to see if the county's gun policies are working and where they could be improved. So far, they seem to work, according to Supervisor Nathan Fletcher.
The sheriff's gun violence prevention pilot program, getting guns out of the hands of folks who legally can't own them, is showing progress.
County data shows homicides decreased by 17% last year, and the number of ghost guns, or non-serialized guns, decreased by 29% from the previous year. Last January, the Board of Supervisors passed an updated ordinance to ban ghost guns in the county. 2021 saw the biggest increase in the number of ghost guns seized, and last year saw the first decline since 2019 in the number of ghost guns seized.
We know that there are guns in our communities that shouldn't be there, that we know that people who are unstable or would not otherwise qualify to be able to safely purchase a firearm are being able to access these guns. And so we are doing everything we can to take on the ghost gun manufacturers who are profiting off of the death and the misery that they're imposing on our communities.
Last June, the board voted to look at options to sue gun manufacturers for deaths caused by their firearms. Lawson Reamer says the county is still moving forward with that, and she expects to see some progress in the coming months. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Our coverage on recent shootings includes the KPBS Midday Edition podcast. One recent segment features advice on mental health as we see more of these stories. And you can stream the podcast anytime on all major podcast platforms. A busy morning on the waterfront for service workers demanding better treatment on the job. It started with dozens of caregivers rallying ahead of the County Board of Supervisors meeting. They want better pay to deal with the rising cost of living in San Diego. Sabrina Bishop from the United Domestic Workers of America says this.
The pay is so low, providers don't even want to work this job. They'd rather flip burgers at In-N-Out for $20 an hour than to work for $16 an hour caring for a family member or a non-family member.
Union members are encouraging the Board of Supervisors to support the In-Home Supportive Services program. It's a county effort to make certain home care workers eligible for government financial assistance. For the second straight week, county supervisors are also hearing from local janitors. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado tells us about the breakthrough that will avoid a strike, at least for now.
Janitorial workers meant business as they rallied outside of the San Diego County Administration building in support of former co-workers who claim they suffered severe punishment in retaliation for trying to start a union for better working conditions. One of them is Sofia Martinez. They made me dump 15 liters of chemicals on the floor that smelled really bad and removed the residue off of the floor with a knife for 8 hours on my hands and knees, she said. And the next day, they wanted me to do the same thing, and I said no. I needed the specialized equipment. My hands were burned and my nose was bleeding, she said. Martinez says she felt so sick that she went home and could not do the same work the next day. She says that's why she was fired by Nova, the company that contracts with the county for janitorial services. Christian Rodriguez is the policy director with the Service Employees International Union and United Service Workers West, the union Martinez was organizing for. The union is demanding Nova give the fired workers their jobs back.
These jobs used to be county jobs, and now, about 20 years ago, the county decided to contract workers off, hiring mostly immigrant women who work in the night shift, paying them close to minimum wage with no health benefits, with no paid holidays, no paid vacation. And on top of that, they have faced unjust working conditions.
We reached out to Nova. They told us they could not comment except to say they're working with the county. Nora Vargas, the first Latina elected chair, met with the janitors in the morning. She came out just before the supervisors' meeting to give the workers a message of support in Spanish and English.
¿Se puede, compañeros? ¡Sí se puede! ¿Hermanos y hermanas están con nosotros? Sí. Pues yo quiero darles las gracias. I just want to say thank you.
Vargas asked the janitors to give the county 2 weeks to negotiate with Nova. They agreed.
You have my commitment. No one in the county of San Diego who works here is allowed to be treated inhumanely and disrespected, not on my watch.
Martinez says she's been out of work with 2 weeks without pay and says her lungs still hurt and can't afford to go to the doctor. But today, she went inside the building she had cleaned for the past 10 years.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Sofía Martínez, tengo 10 años trabajando para el county y yo...
Okay, good morning. My name is Sofia Martinez. I've been working for the county for 10 years.
Only this time to stand behind the podium and speak to the County Board of Supervisors. She recounted the abuse, but also spoke about why she put up with the mistreatment to form a union for her 14-year-old foster son.
Y a él le enseño que hay que hablar y no tener miedo.
I am teaching him that he needs to talk and not be afraid.
Y no pelear con golpes, sino con palabras.
And not to fight with hitting, but to fight with words.
You see, her son, she says, is the one who gave her the strength to keep fighting because she fought for him too.
Mi hijo fue el que me ayudó a no estallar y irme a abandonar el trabajo, a estar aguantando firmemente. Pensaba en él todo el tiempo y decía, tengo que luchar por él.
Then Martinez came out of the building, the very same one she says she scraped a floor soaked in chemicals for 8 hours on her knees. She was met with cheers. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Students at San Diego City College will now have the opportunity to earn a 4-year degree for the first time in the school's history. The California Community College's Board of Governors has approved City College's full bachelor's degree in cyber defense and analysis. Students at the downtown campus can start applying for the program this fall, with classes expected to begin in August of 2024. The new degree will mean a more affordable education for those who need it the most.
You know, many of these programs in those upper division courses are at capacity, and students are turned away. And This is just something that we hope will level that playing field for students who are less advantaged than others.
And completion of the cyber defense degree could lead to a high-paying career. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Labor Statistics, security analysts make over $100,000 per year. With COVID-19 cases dropping in number and in severity, city and county officials are ready to end their local states of emergency. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman says the vaccine mandate for city employees is also ending.
That does pass unanimously.
The city of San Diego's pandemic emergency will officially go away at the end of next month. It's when California Governor Gavin Newsom says the state is also planning to end their emergency orders.
The governor has pointed out that the state now has the resources and ability, the tools necessary to continue to fight COVID-19 now with vaccines and boosters and testing and treatments and so forth. So we're in a much better position to deal with this today than we were 3 years ago.
San Diego City Council member Stephen Whitburn voted in favor of ending the local pandemic emergency. The council also took the first step Tuesday to end San Diego's vaccination mandate for city employees. That ordinance was introduced unanimously and would also take effect at the end of February.
We no longer have the social distancing requirements that we had, the facial covering requirements, quarantines for exposed individuals. So the landscape has changed. I think it does make sense to sunset that requirement. 91% of city employees have been vaccinated. So I think it's time to shift our focus to other things.
I think this is a positive reaction.
Jared Wilson is president of the San Diego Police Officers Association. He says that the department has lost over 500 officers since mid-2020 due to a variety of reasons, like retirements or taking other jobs. But he says about 130 left specifically because of the city's vaccination mandate.
At a time when officers are overworked, they're underpaid, and they're responding from subpar police facilities, we really could not sustain that loss.
Wilson says 700 officers were eventually given religious or medical exemptions, which represents nearly 40% of the workforce. He says some officers got termination warnings for non-compliance, but those were all later rescinded. Wilson says the mandate has been an issue in recruiting, but believes removing it will change that.
Time will tell.
San Diego County health officials say their pandemic emergency will also be over at the end of next month. They say cases have been declining, as well as COVID-related hospitalizations.
As we transition away from the COVID-19 state of emergency, I want to just remind everyone that the pandemic it's not over, but we were going to continue to monitor, investigate, and respond to COVID-19 cases, and our county will adjust as we need to.
A number of state-funded COVID testing sites have been closing in San Diego, and more will be gone by the end of February. County officials say they will continue their own efforts to test, treat, and provide vaccinations. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
On the 50th anniversary of the Endangered Species Act, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has removed 4 plants and a bird unique to San Clemente Island from a protected status. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has this report.
Recently, the Navy invited members of the media for a tour of San Clemente Island, 70 miles west of San Diego. It's the southernmost of California's Channel Islands, but unlike its well-known neighbor to the north, Catalina, San Clemente is not accessible by the public. That's because it's home to a Navy SEAL training facility and serves as a key training ground for Marine Expeditionary Units. It's also the site of the Navy's only ship-to-shore bombardment range. The island's isolation also led to the evolution of unique plants and animals not found anywhere else on Earth.
On this island alone, there are 17 plant species found nowhere else in the world.
That's Brian Munson, the botany program manager at Naval Base Coronado.
So these conditions are different. So when a seed or something from the mainland comes out here, it encounters new conditions and it'll evolve into something new, and that's what's happened numbers of times on this island.
Sheep were raised here until the 1930s when the Navy took over the island. Then, wild invasive goats devastated the plants that native birds used for nesting. When the Endangered Species Act became law in 1973, the Navy launched a program to remove the goats, and by the early 90s, they were gone. But the damage was done. and several native plant and animal species found themselves threatened or endangered. The island has been recovering ever since. Wildlife biologists from the Navy, together with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, began a decades-long program to recover those species. The island night lizard was removed from protected status in 2006, and now 4 plant species and 1 bird are being removed.
The delisting of these species is huge. In the entire history of the Endangered Species Act, only 10 plants have been delisted due to recovery.
The San Clemente Island paintbrush, lotus, larkspur, and bushmallow are the 4 plants being delisted under the Endangered Species Act. The San Clemente Island bell sparrow, a small brown bird with a fluffy white breast, is also being removed from protected status.
The San Clemente Island paintbrush, at the time of listing, there were only about 1,000 individuals, and the only way that that plant survived was existing on extreme cliff faces, like you can see behind me. These extreme cliff faces were not accessible by the goats because the goats virtually ate everything that wasn't on one of those cliff faces.
Experts say the successful recovery of these species shows that with proper management, the habitat can withstand the military's activities, including being shelled by warships.
There are protected species within the shore bombardment area.
Melissa Booker is the island's wildlife biologist. She works for the Navy and says that while it might be counterintuitive to shoot at an endangered habitat, those species are doing well.
The species actually thrive in these areas. The area of actual bombardment, things that actually target and hit the island, is relatively small, so about 9% of the island, and then the remainder of the area behind me is a large buffer.
That buffer zone on the south end of the island, known as SHOBA for Shore Bombardment Area, is home to the now delisted island bell sparrow. Booker says even the areas in the direct line of fire from Navy ships show signs of wildlife.
We have everything from foxes to shrike to bell sparrows moving in and out of those areas and utilizing those areas successfully.
With Wednesday's delisting, these species lose protection under the Endangered Species Act, but Navy scientists say their efforts will now pivot to preventing them from being relisted. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start you off with your weather headlines. We're going to be running cooler this week, though more breezy, closer to the deserts and the mountains, but we are going to be staying dry for the most part. California still catching a break from all that rain we were experiencing earlier on in the year, but as we are dealing with some gustier winds along the coast, we do have a beach hazard statement that's not going to expire until Thursday morning, right through Oceanside down through San Diego. That's what we are expecting. Again, some rougher waves, some higher wave heights too, so be careful if you are heading out towards the coast. Metro, though, tonight we're dropping down to a low of 42, clear and chilly, but it is still going to be clear heading into your day tomorrow. Here's your forecast. We're staying in the 60s along the coast, a little warmer towards El Cajon at 72, and then Ramona at 67, but cooler for the mountains regions near Mount Laguna, sitting in the mid-40s. Gusty winds, though, through Thursday, so gustier Santa Ana wind event going to be occurring across Southern California, especially as we make our way more inland, closer to the deserts and the mountains. We're getting these strong winds coming in again across from Sierra Nevada. Cold across the desert Southwest, still dry but chilly across the state of California. Santa Ana winds Wednesday night through Thursday. Again, going to be impacting the San Diego County area, especially again as we get closer towards the deserts and the mountainous regions. We are dealing with a very saturated ground, so we can't rule out down trees and branches, dangerous crosswinds and gusts between 50 to 75 miles per hour with your AccuWeather local storm max upwards to 90 miles per hour. But for your 5-day outlook along the coast, we are going to be staying in the 60s. Clear, though. We'll have abundant sunshine. More showers push in, though, later on for the weekend. We're dropping down to the 50s, more inland. Similar story, those showers hit by Sunday, but up until then, we're building in the 60s and 70s. For the mountains, a little windy Thursday, especially down to the 30s. That rain and drizzle push in for the end of the weekend. And across the deserts, though, we're staying in the clear with 60s for our highs. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
With 2 mass shootings in just a few days in California, it can be easy to lose track of the lives affected. David Culver talked with a young man in Monterey Park who is now facing a future without his father.
In the chilled glow of candlelight, the Monterey Park community gathers to honor the 11 lives taken and 9 still recovering Images like these, with flowers, balloons, and tributes, you know them well. You've seen them before, and you will see them again. A community vigil following a mass shooting. It's become disturbingly routine, except when it's your loved one they're gathering for.
The one that we have, I just want to see if this is okay.
Val Anthony Alvaro helping me choose the photo that best depicts his dad. He liked this one.
Yeah, it's a good picture. I think it represents his attitude towards everything.
Always upbeat and caring for others. That's how Anthony sums up his dad and namesake, Valentino Alvaro, or Val. He says the 68-year-old hospitality worker hoped to retire in a year or so and planned to return to his native Philippines. In his free time, you'd find him here at Star Ballroom Dance Studio, moving to the music.
Growing up, was he dancing a lot?
Oh yeah, he danced around the house or singing, stuff like that. He loved that kind of stuff.
Video from last year posted on social media showing one of the many joy-filled gatherings at Star Dance. On Saturday night, as Val and dozens of others celebrated the Lunar New Year here, gunfire cut the music short and destroyed so many lives.
Additional units requested, multiple victims, gunshot wounds.
Anthony says he heard about the shooting Sunday morning.
And did you ever think maybe somebody I know is involved?
No, definitely not. As I read the article and I heard it was a dance studio, it crossed my mind.
But you thought about your dad potentially?
Yeah, because he's not the type of person to run away from danger. Once I knew he was there, it was very likely he was either injured or unfortunately one of the ones that passed away.
He was among the dead, along with 10 others. Maymay Nan's family writing in a statement that Saturday was her last dance, adding that if you knew her warm smile was contagious. She was a loving aunt, sister, daughter, and friend. Her dance teacher telling Aaron Burnett,
"The first that comes to my mind is her smile. She would always smile. I don't even think I've ever seen her without a smile. Even, through the mask, I can see her eyes smiling."
While Anthony wants to know more about his father's last moments, he says anger hasn't really surfaced.
I don't think it adds anything to be angry to the situation. What happened. You can't change it. I'd just like for, better to come out of it, right? I think the biggest thing I'd want other people to take away, and I think regardless of this situation, I think it's always so important, is just to cherish the time you have with other people.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, the latest on yet another mass shooting in California, this time near San Francisco. Coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
A temporary border wall built to make a political point is coming down. This is video from the border in Arizona where shipping containers are being removed. Arizona's governor lined them up in recent months to create a 4-mile long wall along the border. The state agreed to remove the display when it was sued by the Biden administration. Now, this next story comes to us thanks to a tip from a KPBS audience member. They discovered that the state of California shared links from an anti-immigrant hate group on its Department of Social Services website. KPBS reporter Gustavo Solis looked into it.
The state agency's webpage is supposed to be a one-stop shop for information about California's refugee programs and other resources for migrants. But until Monday, one of the links took visitors to the Center for Immigration Studies. This is an organization that the Southern Poverty Law Center has identified as an anti-immigrant hate group. Caleb Kiefer is a senior research analyst with the Southern Poverty Law Center.
They are one of the leading anti-immigrant think tanks in the country at the moment.
Kiefer says he understands how somebody could mistake CIS for a legitimate source. The organization presents itself as an impartial think tank. It publishes newsletters and fact sheets. The Social Services Department removed the links as soon as KPBS asked about them. But the agency has yet to answer questions about how long the links have been there and how they got there in the first place. KPBS plugged the website's address into a popular internet archive called the Wayback Machine. It showed that the link to CIS had been there since at least 2017. Kiefer was happy to see the links removed.
Credit to them for taking them down immediately and kind of recognizing kind of the harmful nature of these links. And again, I kind of recognize that this can happen because this is how they were set up to kind of function.
But he says there are real consequences to sharing this kind of information.
When we do give like groups like CI as a platform, we kind of just further kind of mainstream this anti-immigrant, nativist, and xenophobic rhetoric.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
One of the biggest movies of 2022 was filmed right here in San Diego, and now it's up for several Academy Awards.
Now the final category. Here are the 10 nominees for Best Motion Picture of the Year. Top Gun Maverick, Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie, David Ellison, and Jerry Bruckheimer, producers.
And Top Gun Maverick, the long-awaited sequel starring Tom Cruise, is up for Best Picture and a whole lot more, actually. The movie is also nominated in the screenplay, the editing, visual effects, sound, and Best Original Song categories as well. One other local connection to this year's Oscars, SDSU grad Leslie Patterson is nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for All Quiet on the Western Front. And you can revisit our coverage of Top Gun Maverick anytime at kpbs.org, and that includes our story from the red carpet premiere back in May here in San Diego, which featured a special appearance by Tom Cruise. And here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Is it a story about a company protecting its brand, or an industry giant trying to squash competition? NPR's Morning Edition looks at the trademark cases brought by Adidas. And Dr. Eric Topol talks with KPBS Midday Edition about the city of San Diego's push to end the COVID-19 emergency. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.